Hi internet friends, my name is John and in this video we're going to be doing a quiz. Now the purpose of the quiz is to test your Visual Studio Code keyboard shortcut knowledge. Now the winners of you are going to be able to go home tonight and sleep knowing that you are a productivity ninja. And the losers are also going to win because you're going to learn some new cool shortcut keys which will hopefully make you a more productive developer. So without further ado, let's start the quiz. We start the quiz off with question uno, and that is, how do you select a full line of code just using the keyboard? Okay, so what we've got here is a HTML file in all its beautiful glory. Let's go over some of the keyboard shortcuts. So using the arrows up, down, left, right, we all know those. If we start putting the shift key, we'll do selection. If we do control, we'll start jumping by word. So if we do control shift and right arrow, we're going to start selecting by word. Now if we do the end key, we should jump to the end of the line. If we click the home key, we'll be at the beginning of the line. So now if we do a shift and an end, we've selected the line. Question one done. Did you get it right? Question numero deux. How do you copy the current line without touching your mouse? Okay, so let's go back to our good old friend, the HTML file. Delete these lines. So what we want to do now is shift, alt, and then if I click down, in this instance, we've got the current line, we've copied it, and we've pasted a new version underneath it. Now, if I do a shift, an alt, and then an up, I'm copying the same line and pasting above it. Question number three. How do you move the current line without touching your mouse? Back to our HTML file. What we're going to do here is go on the HTML element, using our finger, stick that on the alt, click up, and as you can see, we've moved the line up. Woo! Click down. We're moving our line down. And question number four. How do we do comments without touching the mouse? Okay, so if we go back to our HTML file, what we're going to do is our finger on control, finger on K, and then we're going to do C. And as you can see, we've got a beautiful comment. Now if we do control, K, U, uncomment. Now, remembering two shortcut keys is a bit of a ball ache. We want to simplify things. The winning answer is actually control and /, and by doing just control and /, we can toggle which lines get commented and which don't. Amazing. Question number 5. How do we do multi-line editing within VS Code? Okay, so we're going to jump back to our editor. As you can see here, I've got a single cursor. Now what I'm going to do is grab my finger, put that bad boy on the Alt key. And if I just start clicking around, as you can see, I'm starting to spawn off multiple cursors. So if I start typing in the word test, what you see is I'm getting text everywhere, so I'm doing some multi-line editing. Now, if I want to get rid of my multiple cursors, I hit escape. Now, this has left me in a bit of a quandary. I don't want all this stupid test text everywhere. So what I'm going to do is shift, highlight my text, highlight my test text. Now that is a tongue twister. Now what I'm going to do is control shift and L. This will highlight every single instance within my editor of my text phrase, and I can just delete it. So I'm back to square one. Question number 6 is, how do you select the next occurrence of the currently selected word? So if we go back to our editor, as you can see here, we've got Maxim. Now what we can do is a control and a D. Control D means that I'm going to select the next occurrence. If I do another control D, it's going to select the next one. Question 7. Lucky for some, how do you delete the current line? Okay, so we'll go back to our HTML file. What we'll do is get these two bad boys, shift, control, and then K. Boom, our line is deleted. Welcome to round number 2. In this round, we're going to focus on general keyboard shortcuts for Visual Studio Code that you'll find useful. So, question number 8, garden gate. How do you close the current active tab? So this is possible if we do a command and a W. That will close the active tab. It is question 9. Yes, it is the Brighton line. Actually, before we move on, I'd like to apologize for the English bingo terms. This is actually something that we use over here. It's meaningless and absolute nonsense, but I'm keeping at it. So hopefully anyone who's from the US or anything like that, you might learn something weird about England. So the question we're going to ask is, how do you access the Visual Studio Code settings through the keyboard? So the first one I am going to talk about is just normal settings. So control, comma. This is going to open the settings, and from here you can access things like theme, plugin configurations. We can close that by just doing a Control F4. Now the other thing we can do is access the palette. The palette will give us more shortcuts to the settings. So if we do a Control Shift and a P, you can see that we have the beautiful palette mode at the top here. How are you doing so far? Have you managed to get every single one right? Let me know in the comments below. So question number 10 is, how do we access other files within Visual Studio Code without touching that pesky mouse? So there are a few ways of doing this. Now the first one I'll show is Control Tab. Control Tab is pretty much like Alt Tab in Windows, where we can tab through the active pages. Now this is sort of handy, but still, how do you open a new page? So we can do that using Control P. Do not get mixed up with Control Shift P, which is for the palette. Now from here we can open up every single file just by its name. Now the other one we can do is Control T, which will open up files by type. This isn't applicable for this repo, however, it's useful to know about. Now this saves us from opening up the Solution Explorer. And speaking of Solution Explorer, we can open that up by doing a Control and a B. Next up, it's question number 11. How do we access the terminal just via the keyboard? This is something that we do day to day, in and out, so this is an important one to know. So what we do is a Control and an apostrophe, and as you can see, the terminal has launched. Number 12 is the last question for this round, and that is, how can we learn more about keyboard shortcuts within Visual Studio Code? So this one's very easy. What we can do is a Control K and an S, keeping your finger on the control. This will give you the keyboard shortcuts window. From here you can see every single keyboard shortcut you can use in Visual Studio. There's a ton. You can reassign keys to make things easier for yourself. However, I definitely recommend that you give this page a check, because you're going to learn something new. And there we have it. Did you learn about any new keyboard shortcuts today? I would love to hear in the comments below. Also, I would love to hear what is your favorite Visual Studio Code keyboard shortcut. Please list that, that'd be epic. Now, if you like this content and you'd like to learn more about web development, I do weekly YouTube videos. Hit that subscribe button, be an absolute legend. If you want to do me a solid, hit that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. Just helps with the YouTube algorithm, conning them into sharing this video to more people. Aside from that, I hope you enjoy this content. Hope you have an amazing day, and happy coding!